Hello lovely friends! Today we're going to go through 5 different exercises that you should master as a dancer and that I think are important if you are just starting out with doing any kind of cross training or strength training for dance specifically, and just to be a healthy person in day-to-day life. I am going to go into depth about form and kind of why you should be doing each of these exercises, because number one, it's important that you're doing them correctly if you are going to be working on these. And if you're confused at all by anything that I say, or you're not sure if your form is 100% correct, definitely do a little bit of research on your own. These are pretty common exercises, so you should be able to just Google them and find out how to do them properly. And of course, if you're brand new to any of this, I do recommend that you work with a professional, whether that is personal trainer or a physical therapist, someone who can watch you and point you in the right direction about your form and your placement. I also tried to explain why each exercise is important, because I personally find myself to be more motivated to do something, to work on something, if I know how it's helping me and how it's benefiting me. But if you do research these on your own, I'm sure you'll find a lot more benefits past what I'm just mentioning in this video. So I do encourage you to do your own research and just take all of these as a starting point. And then once you can successfully do all of these exercises, you can start building on them and doing more advanced versions. And one more thing before we start, I want to kind of clear up this misconception that a lot of people have, especially dancers, and especially girls, that doing strength training will make your muscles bulky. I just want to say that it's really difficult for you to actually build a lot of visible muscle, especially as a woman. As females, our hormones actually even make it more difficult to build visible muscle, and you do need to be eating quite a bit, and you need to be doing pretty intense strength exercises for you to see the kind of bulkiness that you might be picturing in your mind. But I just want to say that so that y'all are not scared of adding any kind of weight to these exercises, because once you have all of these fundamentals mastered, I think it's really beneficial to start adding the weights. Like, I notice I feel so much stronger and I feel like I dance better now that I've incorporated more strength training. And like I said, please be safe. Don't go trying random things without knowing what you're doing or having someone there to help you. But I hope y'all enjoy this video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up. And please subscribe to my channel because I post new videos every single week. So let's get started. Woo! Let's talk about the squat. And I know that it seems like a very basic movement, but actually a lot of people and a lot of dancers surprisingly struggle with executing squats with the correct form. For the purposes of this video, I'm just talking about a bodyweight squat. I really think that you should master this as a dancer because you want to develop the right range of motion in your hips, and it will help point out any kind of imbalances you might have with your upper body and your hips and any places that you might be overcompensating. When you do a squat, you want to think about never arching your back and also never doing like a reverse of that. So you never want your stomach to be rolled up under. You want to have a really nice flat back, and then you want to pay a lot of attention to what your legs are doing. You want to think about having most of your weight in your heels, not in your toes. That doesn't mean that you should not have any weight in your toes. You should still have weight across your entire foot, but you want to focus on keeping that weight in the heels. And then, as I mentioned before, your back is nice and long, so when you bend your knees, they're going right over your toes. They're never going past your toes. They're kind of staying more in this 90-degree position. And you think about sinking your tailbone and your hips down diagonally behind you. I'm going to think about my pelvic bone and all of this going straight back down that way. You're not thinking about tucking it under, and you're, like I said before, you're not pushing it out. Please don't try and be cute here and do like the arched back, stick your booty out and come up. This is not the place for that. Even if you see stuff like that on Instagram, it's not correct. So I know it's not as pretty, but this will save your knees, it'll save your hips, and it'll just make you a lot stronger in the long run, especially if you want to progress to adding weights to these, or if you want to try and do more single leg versions of squats. I swear, every time I try and film, an airplane flies over my house. One other thing you need to really think about with your knees is that they're not buckling inward and they're not buckling out over your pinky toes. They're staying straight forward. And if you're having trouble keeping your knees straight, you might want to grab a resistance band. Even if you have a TheraBand and you can just tie it in a loop, put it around the fronts of your thighs so that it's just enough tension that when you are in this position, you have to like use your muscles a little bit to keep your legs open. If you're not able to keep your knees straight over your toes as you squat, you are probably lacking some strength in these muscles, which I don't know the exact names of, but it can be really helpful to add that band on because it'll train your body to use those muscles and keep your knees over your toes, okay? So putting it all together, we have our knees over our toes, our tummy and our core are tight, and we're not arching and we're not sucking under. We're just in a nice neutral flat position. We're sinking down into those heels and the knees are never going past our toes, and then you're coming straight up. And depending on your mobility, you might not have a huge range of motion to do this, but ideally you're working towards getting this into as deep of a position as you can without compromising your form. I know everyone says when you do a squat to squeeze at the top, and you should squeeze at the top. You're gonna feel the backs of your legs lighting up, you're gonna feel the fronts of your legs lighting up, but I like to think of it throughout the whole process of the squat. So I'm not just like letting everything go, dropping down, and then squeezing at the top. I have really tight muscles and tight core the entire time, even as I go down. So I'm thinking about squeezing, 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 and then squeezing all the way back up. Even though I don't have any weight or any resistance right now, I still felt that because I'm squeezing so hard and I'm thinking about that mind-muscle connection, which is really important here, and that will translate over into your dancing. My mat is like, ooh. The other lower body focused exercise you really should master is a single leg deadlift. This incorporates some of the things I just talked about in terms of like hinging from your hips, but it will also really help with your ankle stability. When you're standing on one leg, you are forcing that ankle to get really strong because it's gonna wanna do this, it's gonna wanna wobble. Having this ankle stability and having this single leg stability, even though you're not turned out, it will translate into your dancing when you're doing any kind of single leg exercises, whether it's a balance or it's a releve or it's turns. This can take you really far. If you're brand new to these, I highly recommend you start with 2 legs to get the right coordination of your body first. So you're gonna have your feet hip distance apart. They don't need to be super straight. I just kind of have mine relaxed. What I'm gonna do is simply bend down and over. Maybe pretend that you're grabbing something and then you're pulling it straight back up, and you're keeping whatever object you picked up as close to your body as you can as you come up. And you're not using your back muscles to do this. And that's why I want you to use just like a pretend object. I don't want you to use an actual weight yet. What you're doing is you're simply hinging in the hips and your upper body stays aligned, it doesn't change. And then as you come up, you're squeezing the backs of your legs to pull your body up. And notice my back does not change position at all. So I'm reaching down, I'm grabbing whatever I need to grab, and I'm pulling it back up, and I'm straightening. You need to master that before you move on to the single leg. And it might be helpful if you have something like a broomstick or just like a curtain rod or whatever you have lying around your house to check in with your back. Just put it here on your back, kind of hard, and try and lean over and then come back up. Because what I see happening a lot, and it's a mistake that I made when I first started trying to do deadlifts, is I was using my back muscles to pull me up. So I was trying to use my spine to get me up, but that's completely wrong. You need to just be using the backs of your legs and hinging at the hips. I'm not gonna lie, doing a single leg deadlift is pretty challenging if it's your first time. It might take you a couple weeks to master it. Don't get me wrong, you still might feel this a little bit in your back, but I want you to know that it shouldn't be only in your back. Like, that shouldn't be the only place that you feel it. It shouldn't be the major place you feel it. You should be feeling it in the backs of your legs. So if you are feeling it too much in your back and you're not able to correct it and stop feeling it in your back, then I would just like pause for the day. And if anything, like not just with this exercise, but any exercise, consulting with a professional, whether that's like a personal trainer or a physical therapist, that might really help you because they can give you the actual one-on-one advice on how to tune into those certain muscle groups. So then when you take this into a single leg exercise, you actually don't really need to bend it very much either. I like to just bend it slightly, and I'm keeping my back nice and straight. I just keep this leg right here, and all I do is shoot my weight down, try and touch the floor, and push through that heel to come back up. And I didn't feel that at all in my spine. I felt it all up in the back of my leg because I'm keeping my core tight and I'm hinging only at the hip, and I'm engaging all the other muscles in my body. I feel this in my ankles. Like, this is a really, really good exercise. Definitely one you should throw into your workouts or throw in to your warm-ups. I think I have a warm-up video and I did do these, but I had you do a straight leg. So that's another option. Come back up. Okay, then one last lower body exercise is to target your hip flexors. Hip flexors are what keep your legs up in the air when you're doing an extension or when you're doing a leap or anything like that. And one of the reasons we as dancers feel a lot of pain in our hip flexors is because we're doing those movements, but a lot of times we don't have the strength built up to support it. So here's what you can do. You can grab a band. So I'm going to show two different ways that you can work on this if you don't have a TheraBand. Option one with the resistance band is simply to tie it up, put it around your feet, and then all I'm going to do is lift up this leg off the ground and put it back down. And you can keep doing the same leg or you can alternate, but you want to think about this standing leg being really nice and strong, not moving too much. Your upper body's also not moving, and all you're doing is pushing that knee and that top of the leg upward in this tabletop position, and you'll start to feel it right here in your hip. So you just would continue to repeat that. It's pretty self-explanatory. This one I don't think I need to talk about too much. If you don't have a TheraBand, you can work on this a different way. So we have prop number 2 now, and that would be simply putting your leg up here onto a chair and lifting it up, putting it back down. It's a really small movement, but if you're keeping everything else tight, you're only gonna feel it right here in that hip. And it's very comparable to having the resistance band. You could do both of these, you could do either or, but these are really good exercises for your hip flexors. So moving now down to the floor, we are going to talk about some upper body and core exercises, which I know dancers tend to hate. I used to really not like upper body workouts or exercises just because I didn't have the strength for it and it was really hard. But I promise if you work on these things just little by little, it can make a world of a difference to your dancing. I personally have noticed a big difference in how I hold myself, not only in ballet class, but just all classes, now that I've built up more strength in my upper body. I think a lot of us know what a plank looks like, but I want to focus in here on what your plank should not look like. Number one, you should never have your arms too far away from your body. This is a plank variation and it targets more of like your upper abdominals, but for the purposes of what we're doing here, you want to have your hands right underneath your shoulders. And then you don't want to be dropping your spine down. I'm being really dramatic here, but you want to have your body all in line and you don't even want to be sinking even a little bit because you're putting strain on your lower back and you're not targeting your abs efficiently. On the flip side, you don't want to cheat your plank and round your back up. That's wrong. You're using some shoulder muscle here and I do feel it in my abs, but it's still not effectively working everything that it should be. So your hands are right under your shoulders, your back is nice and long, you're squeezing your booty and you're squeezing your whole entire body. Like, I'm shaking and I'm struggling to talk right now, as you can tell, because this is a full body exercise, y'all. It's so hard to talk while I do this. But some other things to think about in your plank is you want to have your whole entire hand down on the floor. You don't want to be leaning in towards the inside of your hand or to your pinkies. You want to have the weight centered across your whole entire hand. Another thing that I see often is people start to sink in their shoulders like this. And you want instead to push through those hands and almost feel like you're pushing out of the floor. And if you want to take it up even a little bit more, you can think about your hands pulling a little bit apart. That idea of pushing through my hands and pulling the floor apart was honestly such a game changer for me in my planks, because it really allowed me to turn on the appropriate muscles and engage everything like I was supposed to. And I said this a little bit before, but you need to be thinking of having really straight legs, squeezing through your quads, thinking of that heel being nice and lifted, because the more that you use your whole body, the less pressure and strain it is up here on your shoulders and your abs, and it's just like a much more effective exercise if you're targeting everything. And so planks are important, especially as you go into certain types of dance where you're doing a lot of floor work, or if you're doing like hip hop tricks and that kind of thing. It's a very basic core exercise, but when you think about it, it's not just targeting your abdominal muscles, it's targeting everything. It's targeting your back, your shoulders, your whole entire body, which is what you need when you're doing floor work. You don't want to just be strong in like one little piece. You want the full picture to be nice and strong. So that brings me to talk about push-ups, because push-ups are often seen as an arm exercise, which they are, but I feel push-ups with my whole body when I do them, like especially my abs. I've never felt my core be stronger than when I'm consistently doing push-ups. So with push-ups, you can actually target different muscle groups depending on where your elbows are pointing. So if I do a push-up where my elbows are pointing back like this and they're hugging into my body, that's gonna be a lot of tricep muscle. If I do a push-up where my elbows are going more outwards, that's a lot more of my chest and a little bit in my back. I'm gonna focus on that second one. I do think it's important for you to be able to do both, but we're gonna talk about that second one. If you are not able to do a push-up on your knees, that is okay. You can work up to it and you will get there. Some ways to practice that would be, number one, obviously, is putting your knees down. I prefer to have my feet straight down like this and not overlapping them up. I like to have them pressed into the floor. And then you want to think about your whole upper body being exactly how it would be in a plank and exactly how it would be in a regular push-up. So your body is going straight down and coming straight back up. You're not letting your tummy sink. You're not letting your chest only go. It's your whole front of your body is coming down in one straight line in one motion. So you're going down, coming straight back up. If that is too challenging for you, work on only the descent. So only coming down, and then you can come up however you want. And just keep practicing that. So practice just going down, push yourself up however you want. And you can also work on getting them up on your toes with that same method. So you're just working on the going down, and then you can come up however you want, back into a plank. Come down, go back up into a plank.
Well, my sweet friends, I forgot to record an outro, so if you made it this far, I just want to say thanks for watching. Let me know if these exercises help you out. Let me know if you have any questions, and leave a comment below if you have other exercises that have helped you a lot. And I'll catch you all in my next video. Bye!